lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. He missed the complete. He's crazy.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard.
Some tracks just ooze history. The imagery practically pours from the walls and fills your mind with the time of fast cars flying past rich green forests down long straights and into sweeping corners. But you don't have to imagine too hard when it comes to Monza, and when classic cars get brought out of the garage, it can be like living out a fantasy. Today, Kamel GT does just that, and we'll get to watch it all with Round 8 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about the halls of Monza?
Welcome just north of Milan here in the city of Monza, Joe. Officially called Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Yes, sir, we are here today. We built this in 1922. It was the world's third purpose-built racetrack after Brooklands in Surrey, England, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway right there in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, the track's proximity to the Ferrari headquarters in Maranello makes Monza the unchallenged home of the Italian Grand Prix, being held here every year except one. Over the years, the track's gone through a lot of layout changes, including the construction of that high-banked oval that we all like to run on sometimes back in 1954. At this very moment, the final touches are being put on the latest changes that include removing the Retifilo chicane and reworking Curva Grande. And for us today, it'll be this familiar 5.8 kilometer, 3.6 mile, 11 turn layout race fans have come to know and love over the years. But the best way to get an idea what this place is really like is to jump on board the GSRC Audi and take a trip around Monza.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Audi, so let's do a lap around Monza. Flying down the front stretch, expect drafting to really come into play along here. Drivers will be jockeying for position on this long run up to the Retifilo chicane. Unfortunately, it's incredibly easy to outbrake yourself into here, so expect a number of cars to take to the escape road throughout the race. As soon as you can safely put your foot down, apply the power and let the car drift all the way to the left on the approach to Curva Grande. The Audi can make it through flat out, but you'll need most, if not all, of the road to get around here. Quickly, bring it back across to the right and then spot your brake marker for Della Roggia. You can take a lot of the first curve, but that second one likes to tip the car up on two wheels, so you'll want to avoid hitting it too hard. You'll just wind up losing lots of time as you wait to get to the throttle. Then comes the first Lesmo. Avoid turning in too early, which this corner tends to tempt you to do. You can use up quite a bit of the AstroTurf on the exit and still be considered inbound, so keep that in mind. And then, before you know it, you're braking for the second Lesmo. This corner is much sharper, but has a far more critical corner exit than the first one. It's a long acceleration zone you're faced with, and if you fail to find the throttle quickly, it'll leave you a sitting duck as other drivers power past. Once we go under the old oval, you're now approaching Ascari. This chicane is very different from the others, with 3 distinct apexes. Keep the car tucked in tight to the second one, and that should really open up the last left-hander. The reason you're doing that is because once again, you've got an incredibly long straight up ahead. Being able to carry your speed will pay dividends for either attack or defense on the run up to Parabolica. But honestly, even if you can make the pass into this corner, it might be better to wait. Now, this turn is a hairpin, but it's a relatively open hairpin and can be taken faster than you'd expect. The radius also opens up on the second half, and as you feed onto the throttle, you now find yourself back onto the pit straight. Passes will be so much easier if you line yourself up with a good exit out of Parabolica rather than trying to outbrake someone into it. But hopefully, you've now finished a lap around Monza. There's a fast lap around here. Both the Audis and the Nissans going to get quite a bit of speed down these straightaways. Now let's look at the Drivers' Championship and see how they are. Of course, the VCR prototypes are the first ones that we're going to check out, with Keith Ritchie still leading up at the top. Rob Olenek has solidified this second place, but it is certainly not safe. Even with so few rounds left, Jamie Hall is coming on strong, and the Brit could do something and overtake him here eventually. Nicholas Mukanos well down the order is not looking like a threat And then Tapani Lenuluoto, a bit of a surprise that he's not higher up this season. I think lack of participation might have something to do with that to get him into 5th. Of course, there is the Teams Championship for the prototypes as well. And as we glance at those points, Silcut Jaguar up at the top with Toyota very close behind, relatively close behind, I should say, not very. But things could still change depending on how these races go. However, farther down, the other teams do not look like they're going to be able to overtake them. Sauber in 3rd, and then Nissan's in 4th, with Repsol Brun, of course, lagging far, far behind in 5th. Sean, there's, of course, also the Audis running for points.
Yeah, they are, and it's quite a battle, Joe. And in fact, we've got a very deep Audi field today. 17 drivers have shown up. But it's Brian Strodbeck sitting at the top, and well, unfortunately, no, I'm sorry, he is here, just at the bottom of my list there. Strodbeck is here to defend that points championship because there is Phil Blake, 19 points behind. Joni Hagner, who we've seen on a real big hot streak here lately, he sits in 3rd, 56 points out, and he'll be fighting hard to topple Strodbeck today. Ben Laughter, they're in 4th, up a spot there into that 4th place, and he drops Ove Trengerade down to 5th. Now, let's look at the team championship here real quick. And the Audi class, this VCR GT championship, it's Lake and Andrew Baki there, Cunningham Racing, up to 1st. And Roush with Strodbeck and Quinn up to 2nd, dropping. That's right, Skull Bandit Racing down to 3rd, Ove Trengerade, and Shanahan taking just a bit of a tumble there, Joe.
Yeah, a bit sad to see, but very happy that Strodbeck is back to try and challenge Hagner. We saw in the last couple weeks that without Strodbeck around, it seems like, or Ruscola as well, is another one that we should mention has been keeping him in check. And there's just nobody to try and challenge Hagner without those two, and maybe a few others along the way as well who've had close pace. We're watching Strodbeck right now, currently tops the sheets on the GTO qualifying, and there's Hagner as well, who's not far behind, only 3/10 between them at the moment.
There's a familiar name there in the top 10 of qualifying right now. Not used to seeing running out of here, and that's Mick Claridge, hopping out of the Lotus 49 and looking for a little better luck over here in an Audi, Joe.
Which doesn't surprise me too much. I think we pointed out last week that the Audi reminds me of driving the Lotus 49 quite a bit. So let's see if Mick can improve on his 2nd lap. Now, before qualifying is over, though, one thing that I want to mention is there is a bit of concern for the Nissans on fuel, Sean.
Yeah. You know, we were watching the forums and listening to some of the drivers, and, you know, it really depends on where you're going with your downforce. If you've got a little bit too much downforce, or I'm sorry, if you've trimmed out your downforce, then you may come up a little short. A little throttle management, a little magic there with the feet is probably going to help you to the finish without having to get a pit stop.
And did Keith Ritchie mess up his first lap because he has not got a time in yet? I'm seeing, yeah, he's done 1 lap, so he must have had an off. Very easy to do with these chicanes. We're here, and he is on an outlap, and I've seen. Oh, he must have had a serious off then. He must have actually wrecked the car and had to take it in and come back out. Well, that's going to make it interesting for our championship leader, and could give an in for Olenek today. Although Olenek is not on the pole right now, and it's a half-second difference between himself and Houghton. And we're watching Ihamaki try to put his first lap in. Of course, hails from the home of Kuskin Korva Vodka, and very proud of that heritage in his region.
We got to get you to try some of that someday, Joe.
Oh, I'd like to. If any fans are watching, I guess mail some to me or something.
Yeah, we'll see if we can work that out for you.
Well, I mean, Nelms getting his lap in. Sorry.
Some of us been lucky to get some candy or maybe some some meat. Maybe we can work out getting you some vodka.
I have tried some Finnish alcohol before. I had some Finnish friends visit a couple years ago, and they brought all kinds of gifts, including Finnish candy, which I would not recommend salmiakki if you don't like very salty licorice. So there's that. Richie is still coming around, and I believe actually is he in Parabolica right now? Oh, it looks like he's in the Lesmos, so he's not going to be able to finish this lap in time.
Wow.
Richie's going to start from the back. Well, that makes it even more interesting. And what a horrible day to have that happen with it being a pretty full field. In fact, why don't we go through our grid? Actually, nope, we've got a pace lap to go through, so excuse me. I'm so used to starting grids. I'm used to getting on this early, as a few drivers are getting their hot laps in. All right, so now that everybody's done, it's going to be Michael Houghton on the pole. He has been improving time and time again. And next to him on the front row is going to be Rob Olenek with Nicholas Mukanos starting in third. Ardo Yamaki will be fourth, with Antti Lepista rounding out the top five. On the outside of row 3, it'll be John Malia. Lambert Brink will start in 7th, followed by Jamie Hall in 8th. Jesus Basilius in 9th. And rounding out the top 10, it's Clayton McLeod. Row 6 starts with Michael Kopak. John Hill will be in 12th, and Fabian Jungbluth will be 13th. P14 belongs to John Keefe at the start. Martin Krajcik is 15th. Jason Willott 16th, and Jeffrey Oakley 17th, with the cars of Keith Ritchie, Michael Sullivan, and Laurent Raffago starting behind them, Sean.
All right, buddy, here we go. Brian Strodbeck and Yoni Hagner are going to be on the front row of your Audi GTO class. Villarreola and Philip Blake are going to be on row 12 there, 3rd and 4th. Ben Laughter, Pedro Ferreira, 5th and 6th. Franco Scurri and Mick Claridge, 7th and 8th. Hideki Koivitzel start 9th, right alongside Brian Shanahan in 10th. Ralph Pathesius back with us. He's starting 11th. Bronislav Robanek in 12th. Alex Bachu is starting in 13th. Wyatt Nelms, 14th. Ove Trengarade, 15th today. Marcelo Aiello, 16th. And Andrea Monti in 17th.
37 cars. I'm trying to think. Have we seen this many before in the broadcast, Sean?
No, we haven't. No, this is tops for us right here. And Joe, it's over a 2,500 strength of field. That's pretty solid, buddy.
You can see. Wow! Just look at how many cars from that previous shot we saw. The rows and rows and rows of machines. And thankfully, this is a pretty long track, and there's a lot of long straights to try and deal with traffic. The only problem is those Audis are fast on the long straights, Sean.
I almost feel like we could use a third person in the booth right now, Joe. This is going to be a pretty hairy start to this race.
And with about a 15-second difference between the lap times, they are going to catch them relatively quickly. And then that is going to be all the more hairy, watching them try to get through a mess of Audis. Michael Houghton has the pole with a flub in the qualifying from usual pole sitter Keith Ritchie. Didn't have the greatest of races at Sebring, unfortunately. See if he can make up for it this time, although it's looking unlikely that he can try and go for the win unless he has an incredible run through the field, or maybe some problems befall our front runners as they work their way behind the roof pace car down towards Parabolica. That final hairpin is all that stands between them and 45 minutes of racing here in the iRacing Kamel GT Series. As the pace car gets ready to peel off into pit lane, Michael Houghton now has control of the field. He waits patiently for the green to come, still not accelerating. Giving it a long time, and now he goes. Houghton with a great jump over Rob Olenek, Mukanos already looking to the inside of his teammate, but look at the draft start to come in on Olenek. Already looking at the lead. He comes up on the outside. He's fully past him, but can he hold it through the chicane? This is where things get a little crazy. I think John Hill got into the grass there on the inside, but returns to the track safely. And the Nissans are through fine. Let's go to the Audis.
Strodbeck already side by side with Joni Hagner as they get out of the first chicane. Strodbeck able to get away. Villarreal on the start, tried to make a move on Hagner, had to back out of it. Great start here at the front of the field. Everybody else making their way through. Ben Laughter starting this race from the pit.
Oh, Hagner looking up the inside down into De La Roja, but he can't get the nose in. And it looks like the lead is going to stay on Strodbeck as they're coming up on the back of the Nissan field. Oh, and this could get ugly here. Some of the Nissans seem to be struggling on that low downforce. Bit of a bad exit for Strodbeck out of that corner, and Hagner actually took to the side thinking maybe he'd get into the back of him, but they stay out of each other. Gets into the slipstream, looks to the inside once again, but runs out of track by the time they reach the braking for Ascari.
Ascari, so easy to mess up and get wrong, and so much time to be lost there. Got to watch out for the off tracks through there as well. The slowdown penalties.
And I have to imagine these Audis probably punch a huge hole in the air, so are we going to see draft battles here today, Sean?
Well, Hagner took a look at it. He gets a tremendous run on him right there. But man, you've got to get on the brakes soon there to get Parabolica right. You get too far out to the left there, you're in trouble. Hagner, though, here he comes.
Right in the tire tracks, yes, indeed, of Strodbeck. Strodbeck stays defensive. Hagner using that extra speed up along the outside, hoping the momentum will carry, but it stalls him out under braking. He's a lot stronger, using the rubber put down on the track, and the lead now goes to Joni Hagner. And with that swap, why don't we peek in on the Nissans, because we haven't looked at them, and in fact, we've still got Olenek up ahead of Houghton. They are coming through the Lesmos right now. Mukanos is keeping them within check, but he's not close enough for an attack at the moment. A little bit of an update. We understand that Ben Laughter actually came into the pits on the first lap. We suspect maybe he forgot to put in race fuel.
Boy, that's a bad mistake to make, but one that you have to correct immediately. Ben's going to have a lot of time to make up.
Things really stretching out between the cars and the Nissans, although I think someone got a cut course that looks to be Lambert Brink, who drops 3 positions just from that one mistake. Keefe, Kopak, and McLeod all stream by. And now they're side by side, coming down into the Parabolica, way wide for Kopak. Can he bring the car back? And he does, but he still loses out on the position.
Boy, those Nissans so much faster here than the Audi.
Oh, and Franco Scurry had a problem coming out of Ascari.
He sure did, Joe. And you know, it's an easy one. This happens to a lot of people. You miss that exit there. He does it by getting over the sausage bomb right there. That curb, he hits it hard. Boy, that's a hard shunt. A lot of damage there to the front.
And the rear as well, but he gets it going. Once again, battle for the lead, and it looks like Hagner comes out on top as Strodbeck not able to retain that first place. Coming around Curva Grande, you can see even around that turn, it helps him to at least gain on the fin, but not enough to attack by the time they hit De La Roja here.
This is exactly what Brian Strodbeck needed in his day, Joe. I'm going to guess he got off that fire truck early this morning. He's got just enough energy left to finish this race, and he's off to crash for the rest of the day.
Certainly being given quite a fight by Joni Hagner. I'm sure Joni's going to want to make it a three-peat for the win here. Oh, and Iamaki had a problem coming through Parabolica. And this was driver error, as we see on the replay. As the rear comes around.
It just comes around a little. Joey's just not able to catch it. Tough place to try and catch it.
Yeah, and that's blind there. He had to wait a long time for a gap to try and get out and get going once again. So, fans of Keith Ritchie wondering how he's been doing since the back of the field at the green. Well, already up to 8th. And up next for him is Jesus Basillas in the Mercedes.
Yeah, Joe, Hideki Koivitso is up 3 to 7th, but it's Ove Trengrade that has picked up a lot of ground already. Ove up to 9th, coming all the way from 17th where he started. Bad qualifying effort for him.
They only get 2 laps on qualifying, so seems like a lot of drivers maybe fell afoul of the dreaded 1X that discounts the lap. Not used to seeing Ove this far back in the field. A little bit ahead of him up at Pedro Freire and Mick Claridge. Those two in a nice little fight for 5th in the GTO class. Not a bad showing so far for Claridge, newcomer to the series.
Yeah, Mick seems to be getting around just fine in that little Audi there. And now he's got to worry about playing a little defense here. Pedro trying to get him here. Comes around to the left.
To the inside into Ascari, but he's not brave enough on the brakes. And I think that extra experience for Mick in low downforce cars really paid off there, as I didn't think he was going to be able to fend off Pedro.
I didn't think he was either. I thought he was going to cut too much of that, actually, and maybe get a slowdown penalty. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Oh, the battle for the lead is back on in this class. They're coming back to the front stretch. Hagner right in the slipstream of Strodbeck behind them. If they start fighting, Philip Blake is not far behind as well. Hagner looks to the inside, down into the Rettifilio. Out breaks Strodbeck into the corner yet again. Can he get it woed up in time, though? He goes in very deep. Holds on to both apexes somehow, but you can see the time that they lost as he nearly loses it out of the chicane. And Philip Blake is now right on top of them.
Yeah, this battling is coming at a cost, obviously. Philip Blake now involved. Villaruola is right there, Joe.
Strodbeck looking left and right, coming up to the De La Roja, but doesn't fancy a go into this second chicane. It's a 4-car fight for the lead in the GTOs, and still 36 minutes left on the clock. Through the Lesmos they swing. Oh, and Strodbeck once again struggling with that second Lesmo. We've seen that before from him. And now Philip Blake on his tailpipe. But as they stream their way under the oval, Hagner starts to lose it as it goes on. I didn't think the slipstream was that powerful, but all 4 come together once again through the final chicane.
Strodbeck gets it out wide there. Joe, we talked about Lesmo just a moment ago. I don't think I'm revealing anything. Lesmo 2, definitely a little bit more challenging than Lesmo 1 down there. I think you'll see a couple, probably many cars have trouble through there today.
We'll have to keep an eye on there as they return once again to the front stretch. Strodbeck, can he make it happen? We've seen him be passed a few times down in the first chicane. He swings to the inside. He's got a nose ahead. Is he braver on the brakes, though? It's been a bit of a weak point for him this race. Hagner comes back up on the racing line. They're going to be side by side into the first quarter. The 2 behind them having to wait patiently, and Strodbeck does it around the outside of the second apex.
Oh, we had a big problem there. Laurent Raffago and Jeff Oakley got together on track. Oakley was able to keep going. Raffago, damage on his machine. Well, it looks like he's back underway.
All right, looks like we've got the replay now. This is coming out of Curva Grande. Now, this is interesting. There's almost wonder if there's net code in there because the way they banged wheels and then suddenly reacted.
Wow.
So, heading up to fourth in the prototypes. This is a tight fight. You can see, wow, look at this coming out of the corner. Pasilius and Richie. Richie's still trying to climb his way through the field, and now they've got traffic in the form of Wyatt Nelms. He's going to stay to the outside, let them through. Pasilius goes defensive down into De La Roja. More traffic in the way. Aiello up ahead of them. Oh, and behind them, a big accident. That was John Malia and the car of Nelms. Malia coming up. Interesting. Hard to tell from on board there what exactly happened, but looks like Nelms may be missing his braking point a little bit, coming a little too hot and tipping around the rear of Malia.
Yeah, you know what? We should probably go back to the front of the Audi field, guys, because now it's really getting tense. A moment ago, Stradbeck, Hagner, they were trading a little bit of paint. I mean, there was actual contact. I think they probably both got a contact X for it. They're still going at it.
And behind them, swapping positions between Lake and Rolla. Rolla gets by down into De La Roja. And if those two fight too much, they're going to lose contact. Lake gets a better run than Rolla out of the chicane. Can't do anything with it. Our leader may have had an issue as he apologizes to someone. Oh, he actually made contact with Bronislav down into the first chicane. Take a look at the replay, and that caused Olenek to have to clatter over the curbs as well, which certainly can't help the undertray of that Nissan. Here you're going to see outbrakes him cleanly. Similar to what we saw into the De La Roja with Malia earlier, where the Audi just comes back up on top of that Nissan. And actually, Bronislav is off the track in De La Roja right now as another car almost goes off with him in sympathy. That was Aiello. No surprise here, Sean, that we've got quite a bit of action going on with this many cars on track.
It's been great racing, though. I mean, if I'm being just brutally honest, it has. It's been we've not seen any real major incidents. A lot of fighting back through the field in the Nissans. Fabian Jungluth here trying to get a position away from Martin Krajcek. Krajcek is picked up 2. He's trying to defend. I think he's got a little damage on the Tic Tac there. Maybe just a little bit on the front.
And behind them, you can see Kopak as well. That is all fighting for position. 13th up for grabs between the three of them. We don't have to go to it, but a bit ago, Stradback and Hagner. Oh, and Krajcek going way wide through Parabolica. That's going to hand it back over to Jungluth. And in fact, Kopak with a good run might be able to get by him on the front straight. No, he's dropping off. To continue my thought, Stradback and Hagner did have a fight for first into the first chicane this lap, but that nothing came of that. They just had a little bit of side-by-side racing. We'll let you know if there's a change for position there. Keith Ritchie as well has been having plenty of action of his own. He's now up to 5th, having just overtaken Lepisto. And actually, Lepisto's got to worry about Pasilius behind him. Pasilius didn't get a good run through the second Lesmo. Oh, and Kopak and Krajcek, unfortunately, came to blows a little bit there. That was into De La Roja. You're going to see Kopak just coming up a little faster than he expected.
Yeah.
Wonder if maybe the damage on Krajcek affected that as well. Maybe hurting his downforce in those corners.
Very well could have, Joe. It's a shame to see that that qualifies right now as the biggest incident we've seen. I think really talked about that a moment ago. This has been a really, really well-run race now. We're at the 30 minute to go mark. Things have really separated.
1/3 of the way through, indeed, as we continue to watch this fight between Strodbeck and Hagner, closely followed by Rolla and Lake. And you said they've banged doors already, so you kind of have to wonder, could this be a surprise win for Rolla or potentially Lake if disaster strikes our two leaders?
I would definitely say we have a legitimate rivalry between Strodbeck and Hagner going. Well, we're seeing. Oh, Philip Blake having trouble.
Missed a shift. A common story in these Audis. Anybody who's never driven them doesn't understand the woes that these drivers go through with that gearbox. So that makes it 3 now up at the front. Ooh, big run for Strodbeck. A defensive move from Hagner down into Parabolica. Could Strodbeck get the over-under potentially?
He's looking for it right here.
Quite
He's
enough.
got to run.
Slipstream certainly helping him. An update, Kraytrick had to take a tow with his damage, so he is in the pits. Hagner, in the meantime, holding off Strodbeck down into Retifilio. Could have gone back to the line, but elected to stay to that inside. Doesn't hurt him too much. So far, traffic hasn't been too terribly bad.
I think that maybe has a little something to do with the fact that this field is spread out so much. There are a couple of great passing opportunities here. You just have to be a little patient.
We're riding on board with our leader, Olenek, and he's actually coming through our leaders. That was Lake. He just went by. And then up ahead, you can see Billy Rolla, who's in 3rd in the GTOs, and you can see just how much trouble this Nissan has catching the Audis with the grunt they have down a straightaway. This is really where he gains.
Yeah, can take that Ascari so much differently there.
Up ahead of him, you can see the battle for the lead. Yeah, it's going around the outside of Parabolica, Sean.
Yeah, and so the Audis, they're able to keep it low down in the line there. Now we'll get to the straight here. And I would hope that maybe we had seen a little bit more of a battle there with the horsepower we're talking about of that Audi. Unfortunately, he's able to get away pretty quick there. Olenek gets around clean, though.
Strodbeck coming back at Hagner. He's much braver on the brakes this time, but he can't get it wound up. Almost goes over the sleeping policeman. And you can see how much that holds up Rolla. And to top it off, they've got Mukanos and Houghton in a fight for position, trying to come through. Mukanos has to dodge and weave as he's held up momentarily, coming up to Curva Grande. Now he's fully by. Approaching Strodbeck, looks to the inside, not brave enough to stick it in.
Houghton doing a good job here. Boy, Houghton stays right there on the tail.
Just waiting patiently and hasn't found a solid opportunity to use this traffic as a pick. In fact, right now, it's going to hold him up as he loses tons of ground on Mukanos. And just to make it even more tense for them, here comes Keith Ritchie from behind. Ritchie now past Strodbeck, coming up on the car of Hagner. Solidly past, now he can focus on the cars ahead. Ritchie, despite starting this race, well, not 32nd, qualifying is a little off there, but at the back of the GTP field, he's up to 4th, and he's only 7.5 seconds away from our leader.
Boy, that traffic had really hurt Strodbeck back here in the GTOs. He's starting to get a little bit of that back now as they hit the straightaway. He's going to break it a lot deeper here going into Renifilio. Wow, he just tortured the brakes getting down there and picks up a lot of time on Yoni Hagner.
We saw a car almost stationed, and that was Laurent Raffago. I don't think that was an incident. I think he was just trying to let traffic through, but he came to a halt for a long time. Meanwhile, we're watching the fight at the front of the GTO still. Strutbeck getting right underneath that spoiler through De La Roja, but once again can't do a thing with it. Lepisto splits them. Wow, that was tight with Lepisto coming through the second Lesmo, but he made it work. So understand we got a nice fight for 6 with the GTOs, Pedro Fiera and Ove Trangarade. Trangarade still himself trying to come through his field.
Yeah, he's still working on it. It's 10 spots he's gained now. Up to 7th in class. Trying to pick off Ferreira here. I think he's going to get him. He's in the tow now.
If he can just get by this Audi, it's going to be a familiar face next up. And Mick Claridge, he's having to go the long way around. And Pedro's not giving it up, but neither is Ove. And a beautiful job outbraking him around the outside by the Norwegian.
One more ringy dingy there for Ove Trengrade. That's 6th place.
And Keith Ritchie has now gotten past our pole sitter, Michael Houghton, on the podium. Very Vettel-esque drive from Keith Ritchie today.
Yeah, Ritchie pulled that off coming all the way down the front straightaway and breaking deep, Joe.
You can already see the next car ahead is 2nd place. That's Nick Mucanos. Silk Cut Jaguar is on a tear. I think John Malia must have had a problem because I see him in the pits now. Not exactly sure, but if we find out what that was, we'll go back to that replay a little bit later. Oh, and we found it. The New Yorker. Let's see what happened to him. This is coming down the front stretch. Normally, there's no other traffic around him. Huh. Must have had an issue outside of the sim that we just don't know about because he parked the car all on his own.
He did, and that's a shame. He had a decent run going.
A couple more of the Nissans interrupting this fight for the lead and the GTOs, but now they continue on their way. Strodbeck threatening Yoni Hagner. This has been a titanic fight between these two.
It really has, Joe. Oh, boy. Strodbeck just could have been at these other races.
And on screen, we also saw that Ritchie managed to get himself up into 2nd. He's just been slicing through things like a knife through butter. Oh, and was there a missed shift from Strodbeck? He has lost a chunk of time.
Really has. I'm trying to back it up and see now.
Just unusual for him to be out accelerated like that by Hagner. Since then, those two have dropped Villi Ruola.
You know, it was out of Renifilio that he had trouble, Joe. I think you're right. I think he might have missed a shift there.
A little bit of traffic getting in the way of Hagner. That was the car of Ihamaki, I believe, going by. And that has extended the gap to just about the biggest we've seen so far between Brian and Yoni, and that is about a second. Well, I didn't think it was likely that Ritchie could take a win, but he's only 4.5 seconds back from Olenek. His lap times have been 138, 137, 137.2. Olenek is running 39.4, 37.8, 38.2, so he is going to start catching him very quickly. Richie might actually get this win from the back of the pack.
Amazing. Just amazing. What a drive. The Silk Cut Jaguar is really having a dominating run here.
Oh, and Jesus Basilian now dropping down the order, and he is in the pits. I'm checking to see if I can find out what happened to him as well. He's running fairly up the order, and I'm not seeing any incidents for him, so I'm not exactly sure what happened to Jesus. Yeah, no car contact in the previous lap. Unless he needed fuel, which we suspect, so...
Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe he needed fuel.
Meanwhile, fans have been laughing. Remember, that's a driver who we think also needed fuel. However, in the Audis, well, he's up to a top 10 now. Nice recovery drive from Ben. I'm sure he would have wanted more, though. That Commodore Audi used to fighting for podiums instead in this class. And that was a pass for position. Andrea Monti slipping by down the inside of Retta Filio, so he's going to have to fight even harder if he wants to make forward progress.
Got some traffic coming through here. Got to be careful. Hall.
That was Hall and Lepisto who went through, but up at the top of the GTOs, things getting all the more complicated, and this time it looks like a little bit of traffic helps Brian Strodbeck through. That was Bronislav Robanek there that we saw on the outside. Let's watch that replay one more time. We caught the tail end of things. That also had the car of John Hill coming through. He was mostly clear, but certainly added to the complication. And you could tell Strodbeck was trying his hardest to pinch Yoni in with that traffic.
Wow.
Strodbeck using all of his racecraft and then some. What can he do now that he's got track position ahead of Hagner?
It's really been a pendulum, these two. You know, Hagner had this kind of an advantage just, 2 laps ago. Now advantage goes to Strodbeck. You got to hope the pendulum keeps swinging in your favor.
Indeed. And apologies to the rest of the field. We've covered this battle so much, but it's really been the closest fight through most of the cars. There have been a few other good ones. Let's get a rundown in a couple minutes here. But I just kind of want to watch to see what Hagner can do, if he's going to drop off maybe, because the gap seems to be starting to grow.
Maybe ever so slightly.
Been having a nice little battle up in the Nissans between Lepisto and Hall for 5th. Oh, in the meantime, Hagner misses his braking, trying to make up time. And then he goes off course for good measure. Sounds like the car missed a downshift.
Yeah, Redifilio already difficult enough. You see Strodbeck getting away there.
Well, that's exactly what he needs to try to break that draft. What if we could jump up to 5th overall, Ante Lepisto and Jamie Hall? Very close together, less than half a second. Hall, another one who's been fighting a little higher up. This large field has brought out the talent today. And we just got confirmation from Ben Laughter that he did indeed forget to put the right amount of fuel in.
Feel bad for Ben.
Yeah, he's been trying his hardest to make the best of it, but he seems to be in good spirits about it, judging by the radio call. No pass there into the first chicane between Hall and Lepisto. So why don't we give a little bit of a rundown. Top 5 of each of our classes. Rob Olenek leading the way. We're going to have to jump to this soon, I think, because Richie only a second back now. Mukanos is rounding out the podium, but he's also got Houghton close behind, threatening there. And we saw Lepisto a moment ago. He rounds out our top 5 in the Nissans. Let's look at the GTOs.
All right, let's do it. Brian Strodbeck still got this thing right now, and his competitor, Joni Hagner, about 1.2 seconds behind him as they head down into Retifilio, and then you go back to third. It's still Villarreal, who is having a quiet run, to be honest with you. Oh, go to it, Joe. Oh, boy, look at that there.
Yeah, Rolla trying to avoid a wrecked car. I'm not sure who that was. Certainly didn't help him. You can continue
Mike
on, Sean.
Kopak, yeah, all right. So Philip Blake sitting in 4th right now. Philip Blake also having a good run of his own. And then Mick Claridge rounding out the top 5, Joe. Claridge having a solid run. 3 spots he's picked up here.
And that times things out perfectly because we need to get to Keith Ritchie. Traffic holding up Rob Olenek through that first chicane has brought it down to half a second now. Up next ahead of them, they've got Hideki Koivisto. Is that going to cause issues? As they load up for Della Rosa, you can see Ritchie continuing to close that gap. He had 45 minutes to do it. It's only been barely half an hour. Oh, as he almost scrapes doors there with Koivisto. Close moments through the first Lesmo. Ritchie's got time. If he's patient, he doesn't have to force the issue. He's got the draft, though. Looks to the inside, down into Ascari. Olenek tries to fight back. Oh, they almost come together. Ever so tight as Ritchie comes back to the line, but he makes it successful. We need an onboard from Olenek for that one, Sean.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, look at it from above first. Yeah, boy, that's so close.
The way that the tail of that car hangs out, I almost want to say it was overlapping on top of the nose of the New Englander. Look at this. There's no car, and then suddenly there's a car. Wow.
Yeah, well, as a driver, you don't really see that until it happens.
No.
Unless you're in VR, you've got a nice 3-monitor system wrapping around there, and your field of view is really good.
Well, now that Olenek is able to give a detailed analysis of the gearbox of Ritchie, let's see how Keith can get away from him. Hasn't split very quickly, so despite the speed with which he gained on him, now we're seeing him pull away. It's off of those corners that Ritchie seems to find that grip. That battle between Lepisto and Hall was getting ever so close. Once again, it was 1/10 between them through the second chicane, and Hall's not given up yet. That's lap traffic behind them. Jungbluth not in this battle. They're coming up on Koivisto as well. Lepisto's going to be able to get past. And a decisive move from Hall to make sure they're not split by the Audi traffic. Ten minutes left to go on the clock, Sean. It's been a bit frantic, but it's starting to spread itself out.
It is. Even at the front of the GTO field, Hagner having a little bit of trouble as the traffic starts to pass through. He is getting caught behind here a little bit more and more. Now Strodbeck out to 2.8 seconds, almost 3 seconds now. That's significant. Hagner pushing, trying to get as much out of the car as he can. It just doesn't seem to be responding. like he would have it. He's got a little bit of left front damage that he's dealing with. That could have him off just a bit, but right now he doesn't have a partner, doesn't have any tow. Strodbeck, the faster car.
And we've seen time and time again, Sean, in multi-class racing, is that a lot of the times the difference is that traffic management.
Yeah, traffic management and a little bit of luck with that traffic, right, Joe?
This is true.
Sometimes you have it, and sometimes you just absolutely don't. I think it's a combination of both here for Hagner today, but let's not sell Brian Strodbeck short. He's fought hard to get to first and to stay there.
He's had to work for it. Right now, he's got that gap. If he can just keep this pace up and hope that the traffic continues to swing his way. The Buckeye is looking to return on a high note. You know, speaking of the traffic helping or hurting, Olenek is still within a second of Richie.
I think Olenek still has a very, very strong chance of winning this race. Richie's good. He's really good. He's probably even great, Joe. But Rob Olenek is hungry for a win today.
He's determined, but he got a horrible exit out of the Retifilia chicane. He lost a whole second on Keith Ritchie out of that one corner.
It's probably my fault.
Oh, and Anti Lapisto with a bit of a problem. Oh no, and he gets into another car.
Oh, man.
That was Fabian Jungbluth.
Right in front of Jamie Hall and Ove Trengrade trying to get through there.
That looks like just a handful of turbo lag. He wanted so bad to get out of the way, just he hurried it.
Was that Kopak that got pinched there in the wall, I think?
That was Jungbluth.
That was Jungbluth, okay.
He was already a lap down, but even still, that's kind of insult to injury for Jungbluth's day. He's amazingly able to keep going because, wow, he took a lick. Would have thought he would have taken a tow too. Oh, and Mukanos, who was looking at a podium.
Oh, you know what? Another Ascari victim, and he's gonna hit this curb on the inside just enough to send him around, Joe.
And then he clatters along the tire barrier, giving him a little bit more damage. Thankfully, he's able to get the car back going, but he loses out to Jamie Hall, who takes fourth. It could be temporarily.
Clayton McLeod coming on the radio saying something about fuel here, having to save a little bit.
Yeah, I only caught the tail end of that myself. Mukanos makes an attack on Hall down into Retifilia. Can't quite outbrake him. Waiting patiently through Curva Granda. Is he going to have another go into Della Roggia? He's still very close to him. That Audi up ahead, going a little bit off. Stays out of the way. That was Ralph Mathesius. And a great defense so far from Hall. I thought for sure that he would be swallowed up by Mukanos. Of course, that could be helped by Nick's damage. Would Rob Olenek having trouble?
Yeah,
in the
Joe.
same spot. In the exact same way.
Yep. I mean, exact same. Everything about that mirror, the way it backed up to the wall, everything, Joe.
Look at that.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever seen two accidents so closely mirrored. And that loses out second to Houghton. Meanwhile, Mukanos did manage to overtake Jamie Hall. That was through the Parabolica that he got that done. And did John Hill have a problem recently? Or is that something from long ago? Seeing if we can dig it up. I'm going through my replay myself. I think we might have found it. Oh, I think I may have. Wow, hard hit into Marcelo Aiello, who had a problem coming into the first Lesmo, and that's always a fear of mine into that corner. We're going to watch on board just how blind this is, Sean.
Yeah, and I didn't pick that up there either, unfortunately, but yeah, you can't see around that corner, obviously. If somebody's sitting on the inside there and you've got to make an evasive move, you probably don't have enough time to make it, obviously, by what we just saw there.
You can tell how much this race meant to John. He is not happy in the chat. Of course, nobody's... I mean, that's a racing incident, of course, so nobody's really at fault. But man, it's just so frustrating when that happens 4 minutes from the end. Meanwhile, looking at Houghton, he's 12 seconds back from Richie. He started on the pole. Can he hold on to this second place because Olenek is coming fast? They've got second place in the Audis. That's Joni Hagner splitting them momentarily. Laps are winding down, Sean.
Yes, sir, they are. Tell you what, can't say enough about the ride that Billy Ruola's had today. Hagner and Ruola, a couple of Finns there, looking to get on the podium here. Philip Lake about 9.5 seconds back from Billy Ruola. And he's going to have to do a lot of work between now and the end of this race and hope for a little bit of bad luck if he wants to get on the podium.
Wonder if we could get a close-up shot of Hagner's nose, because our directors noticed a bit of damage on there. Sean, do you think that little bit of damage could affect the top end speed that much?
I think any amount of damage on that nose could affect your top end here. We've got some wide open sections. What we talked about early in the race, the horsepower of the Audi, you know, in a straight line, really close to the Nissan, and he just seems to be off now. He's dropped somewhat steadily, you know, just by tenths of a second every lap. But yeah, the car not the same since he picked up that damage.
Disappointment for Hagner, but his loss is Strodbeck's gain. Now down to 2 minutes to go. 2 laps left. That gap between Houghton and Olenek back up to 1.5 seconds. It was looking like maybe he could come in and get that second place back, but traffic has not been kind.
I don't want to say Mick Claridge is struggling to hang on to 6th place, but man, he had a close moment with John Keefe a moment ago. He would love to finish this race with positive positions gained, and his opponents are making it tough on him. You know, Ove Trendegrade just up the track from about 2.2 seconds. Yeah, Ove's going to have to be really, really careful here not to give up that 5th spot. He's going to have to be really, really sharp here over these last couple of laps.
Oh, you know, one thing that I've found different between the Audi and the Lotus is that even though you do have to manage your tires a little bit in the Lotus not to overheat them, the drop-off and grip that this Audi has is something that maybe Mick isn't as used to.
Yeah, and all you have to do is really torture the tires once to figure that out, Joe. But they don't recover well and they don't recover quickly, so any overuse of those tires or beating them up is going to be critical. White flag is out, though.
The silk cut Jaguar of Keith Ritchie out in front, shining in bright white and purple. And Ove Trendegrade, he's lost out to Mick Claridge. Not exactly sure what happened to him. Let's look at the replay.
Oh, you know what? It is having to deal with Martin Kreitscharek. Yeah, it really has to. Ove had to check up there, and it got him offline going into the chicane.
Wow, surprise there. It's going to allow Claridge to maybe get that 5th place.
Again, that was my fault.
Well, we might have to duck back to the battle for second in the GTPs once the checkered flag is out, because it's still under a second between Houghton and Olenek. But Richie, now a 15-second lead after coming from the very back of this GTP field. Nobody ahead of him, just a couple lapped cars in the form of Kopak, Nelms, and Brink. Easily overtakes the Audi. Doesn't even have to overtake these Nissans if he just wants to wait it out. And indeed he does as he comes to the line. Keith Ritchie wins here in round 8 of the Kamel GT Series. Strodbeck has got a while, so we can go to that battle for second first. Olenek holding on to Houghton, but Houghton's going to hold him off and get himself one less spot that he started, but still a nice effort. Olenek rounds out the podium. Let's go to Strodbeck.
Well, it's been pretty clean for Strodbeck. Traded a little paint with Joni Hagner early. Strodbeck, though, been able to just pull away and stay in command of this.
Beautiful win for Brian Strodbeck, overcoming Joni Hagner and finally ending his win streak. Vili Ruola follows the two of them home with a bit of a quiet podium for him. Sounds like that battle between Mick and Ove is not over yet as well. They're coming. Whoa! Ove using all of the track and then the grass and anything else that's possible to drive on. But I think that exit maybe put to rest his hopes unless we get a missed shift from Claridge. Tries to come back at him, but Claridge gets it nice and clean. Across the line in his first race in the Kamel Series, Mick Claridge gets himself a top 5.
Yeah, he earned that one.
All right, with that, we're going to go to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And of course, afterwards, we'll have the official results as well as driver interviews. Don't forget, on screen, we'll have all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Monza. After we watched round 8 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, we didn't think it was possible, but Richie proved us wrong. Went from back to front. The number 3 takes home P1. Michael Houghton started on the pole, but comes home in second. He seems to still be happy with that. Apparently there was a lot of fuel saving going on that we weren't aware of. Rob Olenek comes home in third. He could have seen himself get a win, but just couldn't hold off Keith Ritchie, and then a further mistake put him down to the bottom of the podium. Nicholas Mukanos as well made a similar mistake. He finishes in fourth. And then Jamie Hall manages fifth ahead of Ardo Hiyamaki, coming home in sixth. Clayton McLeod finishes in seventh today. John Keefe was eighth with Jesus Basilius finishing in ninth. Lambert Brink was on the lead lap in the top 10, and Michael Kopak, the last of the cars in the lead lap, in 11th. Jason Wallet finishes a lap down with Martin Krajcik with him in 13th, and Jeffrey Oakley in 14th. Sean?
All right, and it's going to be Brian Strodbeck with a first place finish in the GTOs today. Congratulations to him. And Yoni Hagner with a great drive, but not enough to beat Strodbeck today. He'll finish second. Riola third, Philip Blake fourth, and Mick Claridge with the top 5. Ove Trengrid going to finish sixth, and then we go past him to Pedro Ferreira. Pedro with a seventh place run, Hideki Koivitso in eighth. Then we've got Fabian Jungbluth there. He mired there in 23rd overall. Ben Lafter, he is going to finish ninth in class, and Alex I keep messing this one up. Alex Basu, he's going to finish 10th in class. Brian Shanahan, 11th. Bronislav Robanek in 12th. Marcelo Aiello there in 13th. John Hill will finish 29th overall, 16th in class. Antti Lepisto, 17th in class. Wyatt Nelms will finish 14th today. Ralph Mathesius, 15th. Andrea Monti, 16th. Laurent Raffago, 18th in class. And John Malia, 19th in class. Franco Scurri will finish out our Audi GTO field in 17th. And 37th overall, Michael Sullivan in the Nissan.
With that, we have some of our drivers here to talk to us about how their race went. Let's start out with second place in the GTPs, Michael Houghton, and see what he thinks about starting on the pole and finishing in second. Michael, you seemed pretty happy over the radio after the race. Are you pleased with the second place with Richie coming through and managing the win?
Hey guys, yeah, I knew I wasn't going to be able to hold the lead. I didn't even want to qualify in first, to tell you the truth, because I knew that with wing 6 I would have not finished this race if it had gone one more lap. But it was fuel saving from the beginning, man. Fuel saving from the beginning and hoping that there's some sort of attrition in front of me and capitalize on that.
Yeah, and some of that did happen. Of course, Olenek had his problem. That promoted you. Were you nervous that he'd get by? Did you feel pretty confident that you could fend him off in those last few laps to stay on the second step of the podium?
Well, I knew how fast he was on the straights, but I was more concerned on fuel. And once I saw the white flag and I still had a lap and a half left of fuel, I just gunned it and managed to survive.
That's a pretty good way of putting it for this race. Again, congratulations on a second place. Despite not winning it, certainly gave us a good one to watch.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week.
That was Michael Houghton in the Commodore Nissan today. Up next, Sean, I believe, who have you got? Oh, you've got Brian here.
Yeah, I've caught up with the winner of the GTO class, Mr. Brian Strodbeck. Off the fire truck and onto the track here at Monza. You get a big win. Welcome back, sir. You see,
still getting his breath.
I set him up. Yeah, he's just out of breath.
There I am.
Yeah,
man.
There he is.
I was hitting the wrong button. I was too excited.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thanks, Sean.
Man, for as far as all-time battles go, where does that one rank with you there? The fight that you had with Yoni Hagner.
Yeah, that was right up there. I took a chance when with some traffic around, and he kind of got held up a little bit, and I was really surprised that I was able to start pulling away from him. I don't know if he had damage or traffic caught up with him some more. But I mean, he's a machine. I mean, it's a good win when you can beat him.
Yeah, I saw you guys trade a little pain out there. That was a close moment. Did ever feel like the car was going to get away from you there?
I think we barely touched. I think what was that in one there? I can't remember. I know it wasn't very hard. I don't know if that damaged his car. It didn't damage me at all.
Well, you guys both had a little bit of damage, but I don't think it really hurt anybody too bad, that incident. This was a fun race to watch today. You two really seem to be dialed in, and Villariola was a factor there for a little while. But the track, so easy for me to say. I'm so happy for you. I don't know what to say either. The traffic was a factor there, but you protect your points lead today, and that's got to feel pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm not really paying attention to points. I'm just here for the fun, and this was a good one.
A typical Brian Strodbeck. Just doesn't want to get too overexcited about anything there, Joe. Brian, congratulations.
I'm excited.
Well, listen, I know you can't always make these races, and it's always great when you do. And again, congratulations on the big win, and hopefully we're going to get a chance to see you next week.
Yeah, I think I'm off, so I should be here.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you then, buddy. Have a good day and soak this one up and enjoy it.
Thanks, guys.
All right. And that was, make no mistake, a very excited Brian Strodbeck to get the win today, Joe.
Well, I have to imagine if you're a firefighter, you have to be pretty good at managing the adrenaline. So
right. That's true. That's true. Of course, that slipped my mind. It's a good point, Joe.
We do have fourth place Nick Mukanos with us to talk about his fourth place finish, which unfortunately could have potentially been a podium, but just slipped through his fingers in the dying stages. Nick, it seemed like you weren't the only one bit by that last little sausage curve on the exit of Ascari, but I'm sure that's not much consolation.
Yeah, and I was specifically trying not to do the exact thing that I did.
Other than that, how do you feel about racing this combination at this track? Have you guys done this yet? I feel like this is the first time Kamel has come to Monza.
I think we did it in season 2. I think so. But anyway, it was fun, and I had a great race. I was doing much better than I expected, hoping for the podium, but I made a little bit of a mistake there, and then Michael got the better.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate when those things happen. But other than that, it sounds like we've got another chicane-laden track next week. Do you feel pretty confident going into Zolder, or are you not looking forward to that one?
It's going to be interesting, I think, with the traffic. Like you said, it's twisty, so we'll see. Makes it fun.
Yeah, it'll, I'm sure, provide a few surprises and probably a few slowdown penalties along the way as well. Commiserations that you're just off the podium, and we hope to see you next week.
Yep, thanks.
That was Nicholas Mukanos, fourth place finisher today. Sean, I believe you've got second place over in the Audis waiting to talk to you. Yoni Hagner has joined us.
He has, and it's one spot less than we're used to with you there, Yoni, but you still, are you happy with today's result? Are you okay with it?
Well, yeah, it was okay, right?
It was quite a fight there you had with Strodbeck. Ultimately, what slowed you down? Was it the little bit of damage you had, or was it just the traffic?
I got a bit damage on lap 6 with side-by-side contact with Brian. And a few other times I bent my front corner bit. I don't know if that's affecting anything, but yeah, I was able to hold the lead and stay behind Brian, but a few times there was a bit of traffic and he got away from the trash, so I think I can do at that point.
Well, listen, it was a great race. It was a lot of fun watching you two battle. There were a couple times it looked like Villariola might be a threat there, and I know Villa, a fellow countryman, I'm guessing you race with him quite a bit?
Well, I said him in the start of the season at Nürburgring. So, John, in the TSN, I will help you get faster. So, he's faster now.
Well, listen, Joni, congratulations again on another podium finish. It's going to be another good points week for you, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, and if someone is at danger, he missed the race button like 30 seconds. So, yeah.
Okay. We need Danger Kitty on the track for sure. All right, Yoni. All right, buddy. Hey, thank you. We'll see you next week, my friend.
Yeah, bye.
All right, Joe. And that's Yoni Hagner, second place finisher today in the GTO class, and an overall good guy.
Absolutely. I always love his interviews. He gives us some good insight. We're going to close up today, however, and of course, we want to thank the Kamel GT community for coming together and bringing this broadcast to air. And of course, thanks to Rob Olenek and Andrew Backey, who run the VCR behind the scenes. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work, including Casey Lalonde's latest album, released just days ago. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, or on Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. As was mentioned, next up is Zolder. So going to Belgium, but not the more famous track. That'll be Saturday, November 11th. That'll be at 12 p.m. Eastern. Remember, we've got daylight saving time between now and the next race, so keep an eye on that. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.